Hello, and happy Memorial Day to my fellow Americans. Today, I want to talk to you about being an American in Canada. Now, one of the weird things about being an American in Canada is you're fully aware that your immigrant experience is one of privilege, one of great privilege compared to the vast majority of immigrants to Canada. Most of us are recruited professionals. We came across to Canada either because we had a good job waiting for us or because we wanted to marry someone who was Canadian. And those are the reasons that Americans tend to come to Canada. And because we are right next door, we never fully let go of our home. We can always go home. Usually there's plenty of money, and by plenty of money I don't mean we're all rich, but we're not starving, we're not desperate, we're not poor. Everything is right there, and we can just cross the border anytime we want to. At the same time, because America is so close, Americans tend to think that Canada should be like the 51st state. It shouldn't be any different, any more culture shock than moving from one state to another. And yet it is a very different country. It has its own culture, and they're really proud of it. They're really proud of it. When I was first up in Canada, when I was house hunting after I got my job, but before I moved in, I received 4 Canadian flags in various sizes, from little bitty flags to great big flags to hang in my window, from the people I was getting to know in Canada. They were extremely patriotic, and every time I was handed one of those flags, somebody would talk about American patriotism and how ridiculous that is, and then they would hand me a Canadian flag. And that always struck me as very, very strange. But having been here a while, I understand better. Because America is ever present. You can't escape it. You can't escape its culture. You can't escape its government. You can't escape its people. You can't escape its money. You can't escape its military. You can't escape any little part of it. And certainly not the pollution that comes from across the border. It's all right there, not to mention the Americans like me. So there is a huge amount of resentment, and in some ways the difference in the American immigrant experience in Canada is that no matter how long we're here, we are always Americans first. And that is not so much a choice as it is an assumption. People can still spot me as American from 50 yards. There's something about the way I hold myself. There's certainly my speech, but just the way I walk, I come across as American. And even though I apologize to someone when they bump into me now, which is, I would say, the ultimate mark of a Canadian, I am still found out almost immediately as an American on a daily basis. Now, I became a citizen in, when was that, 2009, shortly after my second son was born. Because I married a Canadian, a refugee Canadian, but a Canadian, and we were having Canadian children, and it only made sense for me to have the same passport, and I could remain an American. I didn't have to give it up. And I think this is what it comes down to when you look at some of the differences between American immigrants and immigrants from other countries. Is yes, there's the privilege, but there's also this idea that America is there and will take us back when we want, and is the big elephant that can squish the country we're in whenever it wants to. And people don't let us forget that. So if you are an American in Canada, and especially if you're new here, understand that their cultural mores are different. The way what they consider polite is different. Their food is different. Their money is different. Don't cross the border and say, "What do you mean you don't take American dollars?" Oh, that drives me nuts. Their politics is different. Their expectation for how people behave in politics and in society, totally different. All of these things are completely different. In Ontario, our milk comes in little bags. There's only like 5 banks. There's lots and lots of differences, and I continue to be constantly startled by them as long as I've been here. I've been here since 2003, so it's a very long time. So what I would say to my fellow Americans who are immigrating here is to give Canada a chance and to try not to get your back up when people start criticizing America, because they will. They will take you as the opportunity to criticize America. And it doesn't matter who you vote for in the American elections, they will still criticize you for American government and American military and American pollution and whatever else, because you were the proxy. And that is just something that we have to take as new residents and guests, really, in this beautiful country. So I don't know if this was helpful or not. I always said when I first moved and first started my job that we should make a brochure just for the Americans on all the ways that Canada was actually different than the United States. But mostly it comes down to keeping an open mind and allowing Canada to be different and enjoying those differences and really reveling in those differences. And frankly, adapting yourself some to the cultural changes that come from being in an entirely different country. Even if you're speaking the same language, even if you are just across the border, even if it's easy to transfer money in and out, even if you can just go across and see your parents or do some work in the United States or whatever else you need to do, even though we have all of these advantages, we must keep an open mind. So I hope that helps somewhat, and have a great day. Bye-bye.